الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد مصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We welcome you all for mashallah now the sixth installment of Saviors of the Islamic Spirit. Inshallah today we will be covering the life of Abu Hamid al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayh. Without further ado, Shaykh Sa'ad.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Khatim al-anbiya wa khayri khalqillah. Muhammad al-Mustafa. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wal-atqiya wal-asfiya wal-atqiya amma ba'd. So I just, my background is my madrasa from Zambia. I wish I was sitting there right now, but I'm not. I just thought maybe it'd be nice to put a different background today, but I think it's also pretty distracting to have something like that. So let's just go back to our normal screen. In the market, sometimes when you walk down the aisles or when you go from one store to another, you find that different products have different values. So for example, you want to purchase a watch and you'll see two watches that look similar, but one watch will cost more than the other watch. Or you might go to buy cologne and two colognes will smell similar, attar, cologne, whatever, but one will cost much more than the other. And the reason for that is one, the expensive watch, the expensive cologne or attar, it will be, the quality of its substance will be greater. It won't be as distilled, watered down. It won't be made from counterfeit or cheaper parts. The parts would be real, and the price will reflect the expensive nature of the parts. Another reason why an item is relatively cheap in the marketplace is if an item is easily replaced. So for example, you have certain foods that are processed will be a lot cheaper than foods that are made fresh, or foods that are processed versus organic foods, because processed foods, technically speaking, will be replaced quickly. They're made in a factory. There's certain machinery that utilizes it, that's utilized to complete the product, and as a result, what occurs is that there'll be tons, like hundreds of boxes, at least in the back, if not thousands of boxes of certain granola bars, for example, because they're just, they're mass produced. And once these items go off the shelf, the new items will come in. But something that's sort of handmade and slowly cooked, that won't be as cheap. That will cost much more, because to prepare something else is going to take time. And that time has value. It's going to take a lot of effort. That effort has value. The ingredients will be greater or stronger, and they'll also have value, etc. And so the reason I mention this is because, there are a lot of graduates from madrasa. There's a lot of graduates from madrasa. But there aren't that many scholars in the world today. There are a lot of madrasa graduates studied 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. But there are not as many scholars. And what's a scholar? The Quran defines a scholar, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That verily from his servants, those who fear Allah the most are the ulama, the scholars. And Rasulullah has identified them as being the inheritors of the prophets. Over the last week, we've lost two very important, very vital, very trusted, very, top tier scholars, for lack of better words. Allama Khalid Mahmoud rahmatullah alayhi, he passed away earlier this week. And then we see Mufti Palanpuri just passed away a few hours ago, who's the Shaykh Hadith Darul Deoband. And you know, why does everyone know these two names, but there's many names across the field of scholarship that people don't know? Well, first, Allah does hide many of His beloved servants, so I'm not putting anyone down. There are many people whom Allah loves, and He just does not let them known to the general public. But secondly, people like these two individuals who passed away, they can't be replaced easily. You can't go to production line and say, well, these two have passed away. Who are the new people coming out of madrasa? It's very hard to replace these types of people. So the world is left with yet another void. Just recently when Sheikh Yunus Jahanpur rahmatullahi passed away, and then another set of scholars had passed away in like that same week. A person, and I think two were khulafa of Mawzaki rahmatullahi. Sheikh Yunus was one of them as well. It's just, we're never going to replace those types of people who taught Bukhari Sharif for 50 years, who preferred hadith over marriage. Like, you're not going to find those people anymore. And so we should be very careful and mindful of the fact that these elders, and here I'm not referring to only scholars, I'm referring to anyone who does khidmah of the deen, who has that fikr, but scholars in particular, they're not going to be around forever. So sit under their shade as long as you can and take benefit from them, because once they're gone, fine, that tree might die. You might try to plant a new tree, but a new tree is not going to come the next day. By the time its shade eventually reaches close to the length and density of the shade that preceded it, we probably would have passed away, and sometimes they'll never reach it. Maybe the ground won't be as fertile anymore. Maybe the roots of that previous tree will still be underneath, and when you try to plant it, the new tree won't grow properly. And so it's frightening for us. My son, my younger son, the middle one, he brought up an interesting point yesterday, the day before. We were talking about something. I forgot what we were doing. I think we had just gone for a jog, or we were just going to get ready to pray, or I forgot what we were doing exactly. But he was saying that, the narration that mentions that Dajjal will not come until, it was in the middle of Tarawih prayer, yeah. And he's like, so now I know what he's thinking about during Tarawih prayer. So no wonder he wasn't correcting my other son. Dajjal will come out when he's not mentioned on the pulpit anymore. And I was like, yeah. That's why I give khutbah every year, at least one. This year I gave two. So far in 2020, I've given 2 khutbahs on Dajjal. But he said, well, can it be right now there's no more Jummah? So there's no more khutbahs, no one's in the pulpits anymore. So Dajjal is not being mentioned anymore. And so I was like, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. You couple that with the people who are supposed to be teaching us about the coming of these fitan and these trials, they're passing. And these individuals whose iman is, strong and supportive to those individuals who study with them or sit with them, with their parting, it sort of leaves a person exposed. It leaves a person exposed to attacks from Shaitan and Dajjal. So we have to, I don't know who's going to take these spots. I mean, who's going to step up? I mean, people do eventually. When Maulana Naeem rahmatullahi alayhi, when he passed away, we were wondering who would take his position. The reality is that no one can fully fulfill the position and role of those who precede them. We hope that someone can do a decent job, but even, you're all from, I'm not in Chicago, I'm in Milwaukee, but you're all in Chicago. You have older ulama, they're aging. They were older when I was younger, and I'm older than many of you listening. Now they're the elders. They're not just older, they're the elders now. And if they pass, there's going to be a quality of scholarship in a presence that's going to be absent. And to find its replacement, I don't know if it's any possible. We have a person in our masjid here, Faruqi Saab, who, alhamdulillah, he spends, until he was recently hospitalized, he would spend, without exaggeration, 16 to 20 hours a day in the masjid. Even though, alhamdulillah, he doesn't live far from the masjid, and he has a very nice home. It's a very large home, and his family's at home. But he just devotes his time. So we often say that we don't have Kamed, we have we energies. So we always joke that he's our we energies, that his nur keeps the masjid, afloat, and keeps the masjid lit. But he's in his mid 80s, I believe, early to mid 80s. Eventually, he's not going to be there anymore. I don't know who in our community will be there that on that random day when I forget something in the masjid and I go back to pick it up, that I know he's going to be inside praying. How many times I was imam did I forget something? I went back to the masjid and there he is praying in the middle of the night. I have no idea who's going to take that position, that place anymore. You look at the weekend schools, like my father, for example, is very devoted to the weekend schools. My father's getting older. No one's gonna live forever. So when he's not in this world anymore, I can't imagine anyone's gonna put that type of devotion and dedication into the weekend schools. Now, will those people be there? Maybe they will be. Wallahu alam. Um, I don't know. So we have to begin to think, what is our lasting khidmah the community going to be? And don't just think I'll earn money and I'll spend it for the ummah. The ummah, of course, needs money, but money, it's not the end all. If I have a fundraiser, I have to give the funds to a cause, and the cause has to have a person who is mm, the recipient, or at least running that particular cause. If I have an orphanage that we're donating to, the orphanage needs someone to run the orphanage, needs a caretaker, needs a president, needs someone who's administering everything. If there's a madrasa, there needs to be a principal, there needs to be a vice principal. Those people need to be there, and I don't know who's going to start taking the places of such individuals. And a few years down the line, a lot of these names, I don't know what we're going to do when they're long. I mean, Maulana Yusuf Mutala just passed away, rahmatullah alayhi, a few months back. I was speaking to a few of his students, just how they're doing afterwards, and I was just listening to some of the talks. These were giants in our presence, excuse me. And I don't know if anyone will replace him. There's a huge void in the earth when his brother passed away, Maulana Abdurrahim Limbada, rahmatullahi alayhi. He passed away in Zambia, in Chipata. There's these types of people, they come, they make a profound difference, and they leave. When they leave, the question is, who's going to continue? And we're talking about all these savers of the Islamic spirit. As the uh, إن الله يبعث على رأس كل مئة سنة. Allah Ta'ala, He sends at the head of every 100 years someone who's going to يجدد هذا الدين أو كما قال. He'll do tajdeed, that person will revive the deen. Well, every time there's a revival, and I mentioned this the first night, it doesn't go back to the same height as the previous 100 years. And now more than ever, we are in need of revitalists, or revivers, I should say. And I'm looking at the names in this book right now, just from the cover. I don't know who's going to replace these individuals. No one has come at that same capacity. I mean, people have come, but there's never been Ibn Abdul Aziz, rahmatullahi alayhi. When Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu passed away, there wasn't a Khalid ever again. I mean, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahmatullahi alayhi was someone amazing. And when Salahuddin rahmatullahi alayhi passed away, there hasn't been a Salahuddin since. I mean, Imam Shaman was there, but it's not the same, rahmatullahi alayhi. And so we have to begin to sort of think that, what are we spending our lives doing? Allah mentions in the Quran, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? Where are we going? Has the purpose of our life become only to make money? I'm not putting making money down. I'm not saying don't excel in your professions, and whatever it is that you do, as a student, as a teacher, as a hospitalist, whatever you are. But at the same time, that can't be the focus of life. If that's the focus of life, who's going to revive these next 100 years? Who is going to be there? Who's going to push forth an opportunity for us to preserve Deen, so the generation that comes after us is in a better place than we are? And if not in a better place, at least the same place that we are. Anyway, I didn't mean so much time, spent almost 15 minutes on that. But these were thoughts that they've been racing through my mind all day, or ever since. I mean, not all day. The past few hours since I found out about the death of Maulana Banpuri. Um, I only met him a few times. I met him when he came to Chicago on a few occasions. And he visited us in Zambia. You know, I still remember he was one of those individuals that you know, he would, you know, in Urdu call it dant. You know, sort of to give what's a good translation for dant? Give like a rebuking, or like, you know, teach someone a lesson, sort of. And he would do that to my teachers, and I would laugh because you know, it's funny to see your teachers being sort of scolded by their teachers. Anyway, bismillah. I was really looking forward to this chapter, and then like after hearing that news, it really took the wind out of my sails. So it's almost like I don't want to even have this chapter today. I was really, really looking forward to this chapter. Anyway. After the stage of Sheikh Abul Hassan al-Ash'ari, rahmatullahi alayh, we come to an entirely new fitna of the times, and that is the increased influence of the philosophers. And the increased influence of the philosophers, it began to really become problematic for our ummah. See, our ummah has always been trained to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously. And sometimes obedience is best performed in simplicity. There is, you know, one of the tabi'een asked the Sahaba regarding the ruling of witr prayer. And so the Sahabi who responded said, I mean, you know, what's the ruling? Fard, wajib, like, you know, whatever the terms are. And he said, we saw the Prophet do it, so we did it. And that was sort of the simplicity of worship that they were in. There wasn't, is this fard, is there wajib, is this wajib, is this mustahab? We've gone into that, and we've gone to it for a good reason. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. I mean, they just obeyed. They obeyed, and that was it. And some of the tabi'een obviously were like this as well, and the tabi'een, the early generations were like this. But as time went on, people began to be influenced by different communities that surround the Muslim empire. As the Muslim empire expanded as well, it got its hands on various pieces of literature and writings. And from them were the writings of the philosophers. And so now here you have an approach and understanding towards life, which was not foreign to the Muslims, but it was not necessarily inherently present within the Muslims. And so in particular, you had Greek philosophy began to come and become very influential within the Muslim ummah. As a result, the Muslim ummah began to abide by philosophy, they became overly rational, they became philosophical as well. They began to have different views on how you understand Islam, the esoteric view, the exoteric view. So from an internal eye, from the external eye. And a lot of these things began to cause Muslims to have not just questions about deen, but it caused them to also be unsure of the best practice of deen. And, you know, khairul kalam, the best speech, it's going to be that which is short, but that which is clear. And what is impressive about speech that's not always short is sometimes we get so caught up in the ability to, you know, what was it? Who was talking about something? What was it? We just talked about this recently. Some basketball player. I can't remember who it was. Sorry? There's an old basketball player before my time. And I mean, he was a Hall of Famer. But people are like, how is he a Hall of Famer? You know, like, because he wasn't. He scored and he rebounded. But he didn't do any type of trick shots or crazy dunks or behind the back, this or that. He got the ball, he put it in the basket over and over and over and over. And it wasn't as exciting as someone who can stick his tongue out with flair and jump from the free throw line, or someone who can, cross someone over and just shoot the ball from anywhere on the court and make it. But he got the job done. And sometimes what you need is just for a person to get the job done, because a person could handle the ball and go across the court and break everyone's ankles. But by the time they get to the basket, if they run out of breath or if they just missed the shot, it was all for naught. It might have been exciting watching the process, but in the end, the entire goal was not achieved. And so this is sort of began to happen within Islam. You saw flourishing within Islam, all of this beautiful external beautification based upon words and philosophy and thought and all these advancements, but the actual crux, which is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was not necessarily growing. In this time, there was a young boy. There were two young boys. One was named Ahmad, one was named Muhammad. And their father, whose name was also Muhammad, he had passed away. And when his father had passed away, he had actually left behind a small sum of money, and he had requested for a friend of his to take care of these sons that he had. So the first two lessons tonight come from this. The first lesson tonight comes in the fact that you have a father whose name is Muhammad, who has a son named Ahmad and a son named Muhammad. And this is the love of the Prophet ﷺ that so many people of piety in the past had, that they would name their children Muhammad, and they themselves would have Muhammad. So nowadays, what do we have? We have families, and it's okay. What will we name the child? We'll name the child Zayd. Oh, we can't name the child Zayd. My second cousin's sister-in-law, she has a brother whose name's Zayd. It's too common. Okay, fine. We'll name our son, Khalid. No, we can't name him Khalid. Remember once we went to school? In that school, remember in 11th grade, we had that classmate. That classmate has a cousin who recently moved to the city whose name is Khalid. Oh yeah, we can name Khalid. Okay, well maybe we should name him, Yaqub. Come on, what kind of name is Yaqub? Don't you know that? And we try to be unique in these names. And so you don't know how often I get asked about, well, what's a good name? I'm like, okay, what's a good name? It's a guy. Yeah, okay, sure. Name him Harith. No, not Harith. I want something, because Harith is the name recommended in Hadith. Name him Abdullah. No, not Abdullah. I need like a good name. Okay, well, these are the names the Prophet recommended. You add for a female. Okay, what do you think? Just name Khadija. Name Aisha. No. Those are common. Is there any other name out there? And this is why you sometimes find people with names that are not common. And I have one in mind, but in case that person's listening, I'm not going to say the name right now because I don't want to call the person out. But it's almost as if the parents just opened the book of the Quran randomly and just pointed to a verse and took out like a couple of words or took one word out, and they applied that right away. I mean, in some cases, the meaning is good. In some cases, I don't even know what it means. But we try to be unique. These individuals had such love for the Prophet. They were named Muhammad. They named their children Muhammad, or a derivative or a different name of the Prophet out of their love for the Prophet. And this is something that we should continue. Granted, I mean, my siblings, not Muhammad, and my nephew does, but my children don't have the name Muhammad. All of the son probably named Muhammad. But we should have an apparent love of the Prophet that shows in some capacity in our lives and our children's lives. It doesn't have to be that they're named Muhammad only, although many ulama did do this and Sunnah did do this, but there should be some expression of our love for the Prophet. The second lesson is that we should always be preparing for the life of our children after we leave this world. More often than not, we're always assuming that, by the time they're in, they've completed their residency and now they're going to be attending physicians, then I'll get older, then I'll pass away, and then they'll be set. We don't know when death's going to come knocking. We don't know when death is going to come knocking. And if death comes knocking early, what have we planned for our children? And here I'm not referring to financial planning, because many people have done financial planning. What have we done for spiritual planning? Have we put a wasiyah and made a bequest within our will that if my children pass away and we want their guardians to be so-and-so because they're people of piety? Or we want, guardian to, okay, fine, the guardian won't be so and so, but we want to at least leave that we want them to spend, here's this much wealth in my will, it's going to go for the Islamic education. That's what I wanted for the Islamic education. I mean, have we already put these types of intentions for our children? And if we haven't, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, then we have to be wary. What if death comes tomorrow? Don't think it won't. Death is constantly visiting us on a daily basis. It doesn't take our soul, it takes someone else's soul. But one day it will take our soul. And if and when it takes our soul, if it's early enough that we haven't had that chance to fulfill all of those dreams of our children, is it written somewhere what we want them to do? Or if it's not written somewhere, have we sort of written upon them? Have we ingrained it with them? Then, like, look, you're going to finish your hifz, and then I want you to at least study a few years of alim course. I want you to go sit in the company of these ulama and mashayikh and try to do A, B, and C in your life. Have we done that? And if we haven't done that, then we have not. And I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, and my kids are, say this here. Well, at least one of them is in front of me right now, so he can hold me to task that you haven't done this yet. And so we should. And this is what Muhammad al-Tusi. This is what he did. That for his sons Ahmad and Muhammad, he had left a friend that who was going to look after his children to make sure that they receive some Islamic education, and he left some wealth for that to be fulfilled. Now, these two children, their names were Ahmad bin Muhammad al-Tusi al-Ghazali and Muhammad bin Muhammad al-Tusi al-Ghazali. And this Muhammad bin Muhammad is also known as Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, the great Imam al-Ghazali. So when they first were they were put into a madrasa where they studied Shafi'i fiqh from Shaykh Ahmad al-Radakani from Jurjan. And then they in Tus, and then they moved to Jurjan to study from Abu Nasr al-Ismaili. So there was already a path for them, a trajectory for them to begin to study. And how did that trajectory go? That's the third lesson today. They didn't say, take my children and go send them to this madrasa across the world. In fact, if you're serious about studying, your responsibility is not to go travel to Zambia or Africa or Asia or, wherever you find a decent madrasa. Your responsibility, my responsibility, is look at the local scholarship and go to these wells first and drink them dry. Then go out further. No one who's thirsty walks by a well and then another well and says, no, I want to go to that well hundreds of miles away so I can quench my thirst. They'll die before they get there. Or at the very least, they'll be called foolish, yet all these wells on the way. The habit of the ulama is they first go to the local scholarship and they begin to drink from their well. And at the very least, they take care of their foundational sciences. And you know what's funny? What's the saying? Ghar ke murghi dal barabar, right? I think that's how it goes. Ghar ke murghi dal barabar. That the house chicken and lentils from the market, they're the same. A person goes out to eat and they might just have lentils, dal. Oh, this dal is amazing, etc. Dal is awesome. At home, it's like a whole chicken meal, but they want to go and get their dal. Why? Because anything outside the home seems exotic. Even though if it's not as good, or it's not as much barakah, or it's not as tasty, or it's not as expensive, or whatever, but it seems better. It's funny. You go to a hotel, and you stay at a hotel. People, oh man, this hotel is amazing, so awesome. Do you see how clean the bathroom was? Yeah, you have 3 of them at home. Yeah, but the room was so nice and big. That's true, but it was only one room. You have 4 in your home. Yeah, but it has a microwave in it. People say it had a mini fridge in it. It's like, bro, you have a fridge in your kitchen, a freezer in your garage, and you have cabinets stocked with food. Why are you overly celebrating this hotel? Why? Because it's something foreign, so it becomes a bit exotic. So people make this mistake when they're studying. They try to go out and find people. Go to your local scholarship and local people of knowledge and study with them. Those scholars, study with them and begin to draw from them the benefit that they have to offer. And once you have tapped that well dry, then go on further and further and further. Oftentimes, those scholars that you want to reach anyway, many of them no longer have the time to teach the foundational sciences because they've reached a point where so many people are coming for the more advanced sciences that they can't give time to the earlier sciences. So take advantage and master those sciences with those nearby you, and then go there. Or better yet, master even more than the initial sciences. So when you get to those scholars there, what's going to naturally happen is that you're going to be able to converse with them and interact with them at a higher level. So Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayh, he first studied with in Tus, and then he went to Jurjan to study. Then he traveled to Nishapur. And there he began to study with one of the great ulama. And he studied more along the way. This is more summarized. But he studied the great Imam, Imam al-Jawain, rahmatullahi alayh. And Imam al-Jawain, rahmatullahi alayh, he's known as Imam al-Haramain. And he was actually not only a celebrated scholar today, but the title given to him as Imam al-Haramain there was actually indicative of something even greater. That he was sort of looked at as the teacher of the teachers, the imam of the imams at that point. People flocked to him, and within the school system that Imam al-Ghazali attended, he was sort of the head teacher. So Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayhi, he sat with Imam al-Haramain, and he began to benefit from him. And Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayhi, he also was a very bright student. He wasn't a dull student, which brings us to our next point. I'm not saying anyone is dull. Nor am I asking you parents to say, okay, well, you're the dull one, you're the smart one, and you're like in between, and you're obviously, I don't know if you're actually my own child or not. I'm not saying go and begin to label your children. But if you find potential in your children, do not only put them in the field of medicine. Do not only put them in the field of medicine. Yes, we need people of medicine, and especially today, where you see these doctors sacrificing their safety and their lives in the front line. I have my hat's off to you, my turban off to you. I have there's a phrase in Urdu, something like Ank Serpa or something like that. I don't know how you say that, but my hat's off to you completely. I have much more respect. This is the first time in my life that I ever wished I was a doctor. I hope my parents aren't listening. I think I was telling my kids, like, I wish I became a doctor, because I really wish I could be out there helping today rather than being sort of home doing whatever I'm doing. But having said that, we can't push them all into medicine. I have two cousins, they're sisters. They have children. All of their children are bright. From the males and the females of their children are all bright. The eldest boys from both families, Maulana Yusuf and Maulana Wahaj, are, I think, actual geniuses. And Maulana Wahaj, he actually started his hifz at where I was doing my hifz at IE when I was older. He was younger than me. He still is younger than me, obviously. But one of the reasons I remember that the whole conversation for him to do hifz was he had already skipped 1 or 2 grades in school, and they were afraid, like, he can't keep skipping grades, because if he does so, like, he's going to be physically out of place when it comes to other children in his class. So, okay, let him go and memorize Quran, and then when he memorizes Quran, he'll come back, he'll have caught back up with his own class. And then, he went to school. I think he did business. And then, alhamdulillah, his parents, rather than letting him study and be in the field that he's supposed to be in, based upon his degree, they let him teach Quran. And as he was teaching Quran, he then did his alim course, and he completed his alim course. And there are many hordes of people who are benefiting from him online today, especially since this whole COVID thing began. So his own community in Michigan, in Tawheed Center, they obviously benefit from him in Farmington Hills. But also, like, many people online are benefiting from him today. MashaAllah, may Allah preserve him and protect him. And I've always wanted to tell my cousin that you there's a great sacrifice on your end, because he could have been something special in the professional realm, but you let him be special in the religious realm, and now we're benefiting from him today. And for my other cousin as well, her son Maulana Yusuf, who's a teacher at Darus Salam, he was in the GPPA program. He was guaranteed medical program, and he got into the program and he started it. And this is the coveted program, especially Desi families, that they want the children to do. And then they let him drop off to go study history, and then he was planning on doing a PhD in history and then economics. And then he showed desire to study Deen. His parents didn't stop him. Then he went overseas, and then he studied at Darul Zakaria. And then when he was there, he sort of redid their library, and he sort of ordered it and did all these things to the library. And then, he was a touted student over there as well, a highly touted student. And then he studied after graduation as well, and we benefit from him today. Very easily, he could have also become a physician, which that was the path he was on. But his parents let him take his genius into the area of deen, and there are more individuals like this. There's many more individuals I can name who are like this. Many of these ulama, you see, they're brilliant individuals who just decided not to take their brilliance into the professional sector. They took it into the religious sector. But this is an important lesson. If you see promise in your child, I don't mind if your child becomes a doctor. There are physicians out there who are ulama. Maulana Umar is a doctor and he's a scholar. Maulana Bashar is a doctor, he's a scholar. Maulana Hussein, Shaykh Hussein's a doctor, he's a scholar. There's a lot of, there's another one from the East Coast. I was introduced to him recently. I'm forgetting his name right now. But there's people like this as well. But don't reserve them only for one type of benefit. If they can use their brain for benefit elsewhere, let them do so. This is a very important lesson that we should be aware of. So anyway, Imam al-Ghazali, he begins to study Imam Haramain, Imam al-Juwayn rahmatullahi alayh. Imam al-Juwayn rahmatullahi alayh saw this person, and he saw that he was so brilliant. He called him, the nickname he gave him was an unending sea, or a sea of depth. A sea of depth, like you can't end its exploration. That's how much he has within him. So he saw the potential of Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayh. And he also said that that Imam Ghazali, his knowledge was encyclopedic. And so soon, not only was he studying with Imam al-Juwayni, but he was also an assistant to him. He was being mentored by him. And what happened was around the age of 30, when Imam Ghazali was around the age of 30, Imam al-Juwayni rahmatullahi alayh passed away. Now this person of such repute and of such knowledge passes away. The same conversation we're having today, how are we going to fill these voids? That's the same conversation that was there. But there was a person they saw. And he was this 28-year-old, as the text mentioned, Imam al-Ghazali. And he was someone who was 28. There were ulama who were senior, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and had spent much of their lives, much more than Imam Ghazali has spent, in the service of deen. But there's so much potential in Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullahi alayh, that they put him in the position. He was the head rector, the head teacher, the head professor, the head provost. Like, that's what he was. He became the top scholar. And so what happened was that he went to Nizam al-Mulk, the Prime Minister of Malik Shah, and Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayh gave him that position. And the Nizam al-Mulk, he loved knowledge. And he tried to financially and politically support the scholars. And so he was constantly surrounded by scholars, and he constantly had a love of scholars. And so when he saw Imam al-Zayd rahmatullahi alayh, he saw that there was no one who was going to be better than him. And so he was appointed that to be the head, to be the main professor, a teacher at the Nizamiya in Baghdad, that college. And at this point, he's only 34 years old. And he was so eloquent and he was so brilliant that when you see his gatherings, the students could no longer come to his gatherings. Why couldn't the students no longer come to his gatherings? Because because so many scholars sat in the gatherings. So many scholars sat in the gatherings that the students could even get in. He became such a teacher that forget students of knowledge sitting. The scholars and teachers themselves wanted to sit at his feet and begin to learn. And so he became so well known that people knew his name without knowing his face. And we see that Imam al-Zayd rahmatullahi alayh, he was more popular than even the Khalifa at that time. And whenever he used to write a book, whatever book he wrote became the main text that was now accepted in the Muslim world in that particular science. And we see Mustadhir Billah, who was one of the caliphs of the Abbasid Empire, loved Imam al-Ghazali so much that he reached out to him. He said, look, there's this group, the Batinites, who are the Batiniya, who are speaking about like secret knowledge and all these things, and they're adopting this type of philosophy. We need you to refute them. So he wrote the Mustadhari, which he named after the caliph, as a refutation against them. Such was the ability of Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, and I mentioned this before, that his Mustasfa, his book of Usul, is widely accepted even today. Imam al-Ghazali, the philosophers had a lot of clout at that time. They were very influential. So Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, remember I spoke yesterday about how sometimes Allah Ta'ala makes use of people from within the movements, like he did with Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari rahmatullahi alayhi. And I also mentioned sometimes they have to be people within the movement who already know the knowledge. Imam al-Ghazali, he wasn't a philosopher, but he spent some time studying philosophy. And he studied philosophy so much that he mastered it. And then he wrote a book on philosophy. I think it's called Maqasid al-Falasifa, the precepts of the foundational understanding of the philosophers, the foundation of philosophy. And when he published this, this became the greatest book of philosophy of the time. Even the philosophers who were becoming a pain in the side of Muslims, a thorn in the side of the Muslims, they began to even say, look at this Imam al-Ghazali, he's one of us. And they accepted his work as part of their canon. Now, once his work became celebrated and accepted amongst the philosophers, and many Muslims were upset, why did you do this? Now you're supporting them. Then he wrote this book called Tahafut al-Falasifa. It was a rebuttal, like the incoherence of the philosophers, where they got it wrong, where he began to identify their principles, and then he began to actually refute those which are problematic. And when he wrote that, it dealt a blow to philosophy such that they almost never recovered. That it dealt such a blow that the philosophers at that time had no response for Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi's work. But look at his brilliance, that he was able to who was not familiar with philosophy, sit down, study it, understand it, write a book that was so attuned to the philosophers that they accepted his work, they praised his work, and they put it within their canon. And once that happened, then he wrote a refutation against them and he destroyed them. And that's his brilliance. So his gatherings are very large. All of the books that he writes immediately become bestsellers, right? They become the Baghdad Times bestseller list, or whatever you want to call it. And his notoriety and fame surpasses the caliph. And his popularity is such that the caliph begins to what? Begins to even seek his help and assistance. So now you think, well, and he's young, he's in his 30s. This person's in a great position, right? Now, there's 2 points. One I skipped and one I want to go into right now. The one I just skipped, which is the fourth point today, is that for those of you who teach and who are scholars, if you happen to be listening for God knows what reason, or those of you who teach and give khutbah, or those of you who just teach or just help or share knowledge, be very careful to be amongst those people who only have a superficial understanding of something and then they go try to pose as experts in an area. Eventually, you'll be found out. What Imam al-Ghazali did was he never posed himself to be someone that he wasn't. It's written about him that he initially did not master hadith. And that's a knock that people have against him. But towards the end of his life, he did formally study hadith in a more academically rigorous way. But before he was going to make a comment, what did he do? He learned what had to be spoken about. He didn't just speak and try to, mask his lack of knowledge by maybe using flowery language or writing flowery words or, using roundabout theory and philosophy to confuse the individuals who are reading and then they subsequently praise him. No, he put time into it. Now, the next lesson is that always understand that the grass will seem greener on the other side, but it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you look at someone else and you think, oh, they have it good. We don't know what people are going through. Someone may be going through what seems to be the best life. Everything's perfect. Parents are together, no divorce. Children are healthy, no disease. Family has high degrees, etc. But you don't know. Maybe that maybe there's debt in the family. or maybe the child is being bullied, or maybe the parent is being given a hard time at work and that's causing stress. So inside the house, things are very difficult. Know what's happening. The situation that Allah Ta'ala put you in, that's best for you. Don't wish to be in the situation of someone else. You don't know what they're going through. And the reason why I mentioned that is because Imam al-Ghazali, rahmatullah alayhi, he was going through a crisis himself. People would think that with his fame and everything that he had, what type of crisis could he go through? But the crisis that he was undergoing was that while he had the popularity, the position, the knowledge, etc., he began to see that though I know all of these things on the surface, internally, I don't see the reality. I don't see myself practicing on it. I don't see myself acting upon it. And so he felt that there was some type of hypocrisy within him. Imam al-Ghazali wrote a text, al-Munqidh min al-Dalal. Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal. What this book is called, it's translated into being deliverance from error. This is an autobiography. And if you want a book, get this book. Someone's borrowing my copy, so if you were going to look at it, someone took it from the library. This book is brilliant and has, like the autobiography from Malcolm X has changed so many lives. Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal has changed so many lives out there. People have read this book and their lives have transformed. Why has it transformed? Because he was going through something that we go through today. He writes, from the days of my early youth, I had a critical disposition. I met the people belonging to every cult and creed, inquired about their faith and tenets, which in due course made me disregard the beaten path. The faith I had inculcated in me from my childhood was shaken, for I thought the children born to Jews and Christians too develop a similar conviction of their own religion. Indeed, knowledge does not admit of any doubt in regard to its veracity, in the same way, for instance, that I know that 10 is more than 3. Simple terms, what is he saying? Ever since he was young, he asked a lot of questions. When he began to ask a lot of questions, he would find about different religions. And that would begin to shake him and make him question a little. He said, in reality, I should have had such firm faith, just like I have faith that the number 10 is greater than number 3. And then he begins to sort of say that if someone were to say, if anyone puts forward a claim that 3 exceeds 10 and turns a staff into a snake to support his claim, I'd be amazed by his feet. The staff, it becomes a stick. He's like, I'd say, wow, that's amazing. But no, 10 is more than 3. So he's basically saying that certain things he knew for sure are right. But when it came to those principles that he was teaching, the people of the internal who claim to know hidden truth, the philosophers who claimed mastery of logic and reason, and the mystics who claimed to be illuminated. And when he researched the first 3 groups, he found out that that they all had issues, that in the end, they were not right. So when it came to the theologians, and when he came to the Batinis, and he came to the philosophers, he found that, there's issues in all these things. However, what he did recognize, that the only branch of knowledge that comes into conflict with religion is the metaphysics, and that is a science that philosopher. Let me move on. Now only mysticism remained to be examined. So I turned my attention to it. Mysticism is translated as tasawwuf, tazkiyah, ilm al-ihsan, Sufism. I don't care what term you use. It's the part of our deen that basically says, you know what, you're praying, make sure you have khushu and focus. You know what, you're doing dhikr, just don't do it only on your tongue. Make sure your heart is remembering Allah as well. Don't, after prayer, Assalamualaikum. No, don't do that. Okay. Don't be those people who are reading Quran and they don't know what they're talking about. Have depth in your interaction. Depth doesn't mean just understanding. A person can have lack of understanding but could have depth, although it's hard. A person can have understanding and still not have depth. So anyway, he saw that mysticism was 2 kinds, intellectual and intuitional. It was easy for me to look into the first. I went through Abu Talib al-Makki's Qut al-Qulub and the tracks of Harith al-Muhasibi, Junayd, meaning Junayd al-Baghdadi, Shibli, Bayazid al-Bistami, and other mystics. I gathered whatever knowledge of mysticism could be had found in these books, but I found the knowledge of the essence of reality could be attained not through study of mysticism, but through intuition.
an ecstasy brought about by purification of the heart. So what does that mean? Basically, he said, I read about it. It made sense, but I quickly understood that it's not going to be enough to just read about it. I need to experience it. And if you don't understand what that means, just look at the following. You go online because it's your turn to make sahur or iftar in the house, and you get this recipe for this amazing dish. Not fruit chat. Fruit chat's not amazing. Fruit chat takes Allah's candy, nature is candy, which is what? Fruit, and makes it bitter and sour. No, not fruit chat, but actually something good. And you look at the picture online and you say, wow, that looks good. And you read in the ingredients, you say, that's amazing. And then what you do is you make copies of that page and you cut it out and you put on everyone's plate for iftar the next evening. Say, this is what we're going to have. And the people say, what is this? And he said, look at it. Doesn't it look mouthwatering? Yes, it does. Look at the ingredients. Don't they look so savory? Yes, they do. So enjoy. No, you can't. You have to experience it. Okay, now you cook it, now smell is wafting through the house. And everyone's like, oh, it smells good. You're like, yeah, I know it does. Like, I'm going to go give it to our neighbor now. No, even then it's not enough. The experience has to be the taste. So what's being said over here is you can read about all this internalization of deen, but until you experience internalization, it's to me nothing more than just what? Lip service. And so he had recognized that all of these branches, he understood them. But now, based upon his self-reflection, that I realized I was wholly immersed in worldly temptations, its ties and attachments. The vocation of teaching appeared to be a noble pursuit, but further reflection revealed that I was paying my entire attention to sciences that were neither important nor beneficial for the hereafter. I probed into the motives of my work as a teacher and found that instead of any sincere desire to win Allah's favor, I was after honor and fame. I was convinced I was on the edge of an abyss, and if I did not take immediate steps to retrieve the situation, I'd be doomed to internal fire. Meaning what? He's like, I understand all these things logically, but it's not in me yet, and I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell if I don't figure this out soon. And so every day, he said, okay, I'm going to leave Baghdad. I'm going to go purify myself. And every day, he said that on one hand, faith called him to get up. It cried to me, your life is short. You have a long journey to make. All your pretended knowledge is nothing but falsehood and fantasy. So he was like, okay, I'm going to leave my position. I'm going to go and, purify myself. Then all of a sudden, his nafs would whisper, this is temporary yearning. Allah has favored you with respect and honor. If you give it up and try to retrace your steps and come back, you will never be able to get it back again. So he's constantly going back and forth, these two whispers, for 6 months on a daily basis. 6 months. People do istikhara and try to get the answer right away. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you have to go through difficulty. 6 months, he couldn't figure it out. And after 6 months of being unable to get the solution, what happens? Allah gives him the solution. When a person strives sincerely, Allah will open the doors eventually. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What does Allah ta'ala subhanahu wa ta'ala do? Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi mentions that he came to class to teach. But when he came to class, Allah had chained my tongue and prevented me from lecturing. Vainly, I desired to teach my pupils who came to me. My mouth went dumb. So he opened his mouth, he could not speak. So now imagine he sits down. All these students are there, full lecture hall, lack of better words. And he opens his mouth and nothing's coming out. And he's opening his mouth. You know how like when you're on mute? I muted myself. I think I'm back now. Right, Hamza, am I back? You can hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. But you know how that was for a moment? Like when I muted myself? Like, it's like, what's he trying to say? Now imagine if I went the whole hour like this, just like this guy's an absolute fool. So he goes up there, he starts opening his mouth and nothing is coming out. And so he said, the silence to which I was condemned cast me into violent despair. I lost all appetite. I could neither swallow a morsel of bread nor drink a drop of water. I gradually became too weak. And at last, the physicians who were treating me gave up all hope of my recovery. He had to be sent home. He became sort of depressed. They began to tend to him. Now he's withering away. And you know what they said? They said, you know what? This is not an affliction of the body. This is an affliction of the soul. Something is going on inside of you, in your soul, in your heart, that is causing this. And so I took refuge in Allah like a man who has exhausted himself and has denied all means. I prayed to him who answers the wrong one when he cries unto him. And he made easy for me to sacrifice honor, wealth, and family. So he left it all. And then he went. And yeah, you know what? We'll just should we just continue tomorrow, Hamza? We've been going on for an hour, right? Or should we just continue now?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm sitting. I'm pretty comfortable. Yeah, we'll just continue tomorrow with this, okay? Will it be? I mean, what do you think, Hamza? I'm asking your opinion. You tell me, because I probably have a solid half hour before I finish.
That's fine. If you want to do a part 2.
Yeah, I'll just do a part 2. Is that okay?
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So yeah, we'll stop over here, inshallah. Tomorrow we'll just continue with this, inshallah. And then we'll finish off the life of Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi. I'll do a little recap in the beginning. That way, if anyone joins who wasn't there the first night, meaning tonight, they'll get a recap. And for those of you who already heard the first part, you can just, have your post tarawih meal a little longer and join a little later, inshallah. Wa akhir da'wan, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. So let's take a few minutes in reflection. In particular, I want to reflect on a couple of things. Either you can reflect on, obviously, Allah's name and the greatness of Allah, however you regularly do your meditation, muraqabah, your muhasabah, whatever the case may be. Or reflect on the fact that these great individuals are leaving this world, and are we going to fill that void? And if we can't, will our children fill that void? Or will we sponsor someone to fill that void? Or you reflect on the fact that okay, on the surface, everyone's like, oh, subhanAllah, look at Sa'ad. He has a beard and he has a turban. He's giving these talks, but inside is there like a dead, rotting corpse in there? So reflect on one of these, inshallah. But don't just reflect on my dead, rotting corpse. I meant your own personal one. And then after that, inshallah, we'll have dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد بارك وسلم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم انصر المسلمين والمجاهدين في كل مكان يا رب العالمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب القبر اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من فتن المحيا والممات وفتن المسيح الدجال اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها مولاها اللهم ربنا زدنا علما اللهم ربنا زدنا علما اللهم ربنا زدنا علما اللهم اجعلنا من الصالحين اللهم اجعلنا من الصالحين واجعلنا من الصديقين واجعلنا من شهداء الدين واجعلنا من علماء الدين واجعلنا من حفاظ الدين واجعلنا من المقربين واجعلنا من السابقين
اللهم اجعلنا من السابقين الأولين. اللهم اجعلنا من أوليائك. اللهم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق وأعمالنا من الرياء وألسنتنا من الكذب وأعيننا من الخيانة، إنك تعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. اللهم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا، ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا، ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به، واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا، أنت مولانا فانصرنا عن القوم الكافرين. اللهم ربنا لا تجعلنا فتنة للذين ظلموا ولا تجعلنا فتنة للذين آمنوا. اللهم ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. Oh Allah, verily, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, that you purify us, Ya Allah, in the most beautiful and complete yet easy purification, Ya Allah, in these last 10 days and nights of Ramadan. Oh Allah, tonight we have started the 26th night of Ramadan, Ya Allah. So now more than half of Ramadan has passed, more than 3/4 of Ramadan has passed. We're in the last half of the last 10 nights, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, if Laylatul Qadr has come and passed, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to grant us the reward of those who are successful in that night. And if it has yet to pass, Ya Allah, we ask that you allow us to observe it in a way that's befitting for those whom you love to observe Laylatul Qadr, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily we sit with a heavy heart tonight, Ya Allah, after the passing of such notable scholars and servants of the Deen, Ya Allah. And we recognize now that we are in a situation where this void begins to grow. We don't know who's going to fill it, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, take from us some khidmah and service of the Deen, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily, Ya Allah, sometimes when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves as being frauds, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, it is from your grace and your bounty that you have covered our sins and our evil thoughts and our shortcomings. Oh Allah, continue to veil us, Ya Allah. And despite our sins and shortcomings, Ya Allah, take work from the Deen for us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask that you make us those special people who never complain, Ya Allah. Let us always be happy with what you have given. If we have a full meal, Ya Allah, let us be happy with it. If we have one meal every few days, Ya Allah, let us be happy that we fulfilled that sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If we haven't eaten all week, Ya Allah, let us be happy with the fact that our limbs are functioning properly and that our bodies are still working. If we are sick, Ya Allah, let us be happy with the fact that we are not as sick as those who have terminal illness, Ya Allah. If we have terminal illness, Ya Allah, let us be happy with the fact that we are dying upon Islam and Iman, and grant us that death. Oh Allah, if we are dying, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, that you make us amongst those who are grateful, Ya Allah, that the concern and fikr of the akhirah is still within our hearts, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, if we are amongst those, Ya Allah, who are confined in our homes right now because of this COVID situation, Ya Allah, we ask you to make us content to receive the rewards of those who do not leave their quarantine to fulfill the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Allah. And you give us that reward, the shaheed that he has promised, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask, Ya Allah, that if we're amongst those who cannot pray in the masajid right now because of the situation, that you make us grateful for at least having a desire to be in the masjid, Ya Allah. No, Allah, if we are amongst those, Ya Allah, who, when the situation is lifted, Ya Allah, makes amongst those who all these promises we made to ourselves and ways that we promise we change ourselves, that you make them permanent in our lives even after this ends, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask that you allow us to find the good in everything that's in this world, Ya Allah, and not be occupied by the evil and the harm of everything in this world, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, there's many sins and mistakes that we've made, Ya Allah. We've hurt many of your slaves and servants, Ya Allah. We ask that you grant them tawfiq to forgive us for the way that we have harmed them, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we have sinned against you on multiple occasions, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we call upon you as being the Ghafir and the Ghafoor and the Ghaffar, that you forgive us, Ya Allah,
And you as being al-afu, Ya Allah, that you remove the sin such that no trace remains, no memory of it remains in anyone, including ourselves, in this world and the hereafter. No trace remains, Ya Allah, of desire to reenact it within our hearts, Ya Allah. And Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, that whatever pleasure came from it, Ya Allah, that it's forever removed from our minds as well, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask that you give us tawfiq to do khidmah of our parents, Ya Allah, in whatever way is pleasing to you, Ya Allah, and is necessary within our lives. If our parents have passed away, Ya Allah, we ask tawfiq to do khidmah for their friends, Ya Allah, and their siblings and their relatives, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask that you soften our hearts, Ya Allah, and that you make our tongues wet and moist with zikr, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask that you make Quran a true companion for us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask that you turn us away from all this social media, Ya Allah. All of this me, what did I post, and how many followers do I have, and how many likes did I have, and all this I and me has made our nafs grow strong and our iman grow weak, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, that you turn us away from this lifestyle, Ya Allah, and you turn us towards a lifestyle where the only like that matters is whether you like us or you love us, Ya Allah. The only friend that matters, Ya Allah, is if we can become your awliya, your friends, Ya Allah, and if you are our friend, Ya Allah. And the only following that matters, Ya Allah, is the ittiba, the Prophet ﷺ, the way we follow him, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily we turn to you, Ya Allah, and we ask you bless this masjid, Masjid Uthman, Ya Allah. Verily, it has started before other projects in our community, but it has not reached its completion, Ya Allah. Other projects have finished, Masjid Uthman has not finished, Ya Allah. And verily, Ya Allah, it makes sense. This masjid has been named after that companion who started almost earlier than every other companion, Ya Allah. Only a few companions became Muslim before him, Ya Allah. And he began to support the deen with his finances and his life, Ya Allah, before most others, Ya Allah. And oh Allah, he lived beyond the age of many companions, not all, but many companions. And oh Allah, his service and his benefit to the deen, Ya Allah, still exists today, Ya Allah. So oh Allah, it makes sense that the project has gone longer, Ya Allah, because the project of Uthman radiallahu anhu to support the deen, it still continues today, Ya Allah. But oh Allah, we ask that you grant tawfiq to all of us, Ya Allah, to donate to this project, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, you know I am not an employee of this masjid. You know I sought no reward, no compensation for this, Ya Allah. This is just out of hopefully some sincerity in my heart and love for this masjid and the people of this masjid, Ya Allah, that we're having this program. So Allah, I'm not doing this for any kickback, Ya Allah. You know, Ya Allah, that we are only asking right now to support this masjid, Ya Allah, so that yet another place in our community can have a masjid. Not just a place of worship, but a place that is physically pleasing to the eye, Ya Allah. That when we look at it, it brings sakina to our hearts. And that is a place where qualified scholars like Maulana Mufti Zishan, Maulana Bilal, and others, Ya Allah, can continue teaching and spreading the faith of their teachers, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to take this project to its completion, Ya Allah, and let it happen soon, Ya Allah. Let it be such that when the masajid of Chicago open up again, Ya Allah, after this COVID-19 crisis, this masjid opens up along with them, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask, Ya Allah, that everyone who's sitting here listening to these talks, they've come with some hope, Ya Allah. Whatever hope and aspiration they came, be it to shed tears at night, be it to learn about those individuals who preceded us, be it to change their lives, or just to have virtual company, Ya Allah. And oh Allah, that you grant them that reward and the reward of the intentions that they did not make, Ya Allah. Grant them those rewards as well, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily, Ya Allah, though this gathering is not taking place in person, it's still a virtual gathering, Ya Allah. And verily, the gatherings, Ya Allah, the angels descend upon them, the gatherings that remember you, and they take the names of those sitting in these gatherings to you until you forgive their sins, Ya Allah. So, oh Allah, though we're not together, Ya Allah, we intended to have been together if the opportunity was there. Grant us that same reward, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we turn to you, Ya Allah, and we ask that our brothers and sisters across the world, the children of Adam alayhi salam, the followers of your Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Allah, that you take them out of their hardship, Ya Allah. That you provide for them clothing if they are naked, that you provide for them drink if they are thirsty, that you provide for them food if they're hungry, You provide for them shelter if they are homeless. You provide for them family if they are alone. You provide for them peace if they are in war. You provide for them security if there is fear, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask, Ya Allah, that you rectify everyone's situation, Ya Allah, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. Oh Allah, the rectification of the non-Muslim situation will include that you guide them, Ya Allah, so guide them as well to the straight path, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, whatever efforts we've made in our lives, Ya Allah, that we've struggled with, Ya Allah, oh Allah, we ask that you remove our doubt that we have, Ya Allah, and bring certainty of you and certainty of your deen within our hearts, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, let there not be infighting, Ya Allah. Let there not be disagreements amongst the leaders, nor the followers of the people of our community, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily we ask that you allow these organizations and institutions to get along together, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily, Ya Allah, those individuals, Ya Allah, who are serving their elders, who are sick, Ya Allah, who are serving the front lines of this COVID crisis, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask, Ya Allah, that you protect them, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily we ask you, Ya Allah, that you please make us sincere, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, what good does it do, Ya Allah, if we are dressed in the way of the Sunnah, or we pray with the back so straight that you can balance a cup of water on it, but in the ruku we are not thinking of anything other than pleasing others, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, what good is it, Ya Allah, if we tie a turban on our head, and we do so, Ya Allah, just for the sake that others think that we are people of scholarship, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, what good is it, Ya Allah, oh Allah, that if we go to the masajid, just so people can say this person comes to the masjid, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, what benefit is it, Ya Allah, if we teach or if we study, Ya Allah, just so people will celebrate our names and mention us in their own private gatherings, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we turn to you, Ya Allah, and ask that you grant us true sincerity, Ya Allah. Make us sincere, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask those who are suffering from a mental health crisis, Ya Allah, that exists today, that you grant them ease, Ya Allah, and you grant them cure, Ya Allah, and you remove the stigma that's attached to it, Ya Allah. We ask that those who are suffering from physical health crises, Ya Allah, you grant them complete cure and recovery, Ya Allah. We ask that those who are suffering from a financial crisis, Ya Allah, that you remove their debts, Ya Allah, remove all of our debts, Ya Allah. That you keep them and all of us out of interest, Ya Allah, and you put barakah in our wealth, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask those who have a family crisis, Ya Allah, that you unite the hearts of families together again, Ya Allah, and let them overlook their mistakes and faults, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we ask those, Ya Allah, who have a crisis of faith, Ya Allah, that you grant them and all of us yaqeen and certainty of you and your Prophet ﷺ and the message that you have sent through him to us, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, verily the time is getting very late, Ya Allah. We should be standing for the Tahajjud right now. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك عبدك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك وعبدك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Ya Allah, Allah, forgive our parents and their predecessors and their parents and parents and parents, our children, those who come after them, our siblings and those who come across with them and their families and our friends, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask that you grant us tawfiq to fill the void of our elders and be appreciative of them, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask that you forgive Allama Khalid Mahmoud and Mufti Palanpuri, Ya Allah, and grant them a reward that they even that they would never have imagined or expected, Ya Allah. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين رب العالمين. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Inshallah, we should meet each other tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.